So you would change his name?
Yeah, only because the dad, well, my son's dad is, he's not a good one. So I probably would.
But if he's got his own house,
yeah,
and he bought the bed, he bought the wardrobe, he's done everything in the house, in his house, for when his daughter comes around to stay in there. He didn't ask the mum for a penny.
Okay, if he didn't ask.
He didn't ask the mum for a penny.
I would never actually ask her.
No, of course. But
no.
I just said put the financial side situation. We're putting the financial situation aside.
She took her about putting your muscles together.
Yeah,
me,
I can't. I'm
time.
a small woman. Your child's now got to deal
Alright.
with having some bust down mattress on the floor because I'm not strong enough to build this double bunk bed. But because of your pride and you got a great double bunk bed that your child's going to use twice every 14 days. But you're going to sit there with your chest puffed out and be like, that's cool. I don't need to help her with that because that's not my yard. That's not my bedroom. Not my problem. Not my monkeys. Not my circus. You, my friend, would be a waste man.
So what's going on, people, and welcome back to a brand new episode. Today is a different show because today is the BabyFathers meets the BabyMothers. All right. So on today's show, I'll be representing the BabyFathers, and my co-host
Rachel, I'm going to be representing the BabyMothers.
All right. And on Rachel's team, she has V. You don't know who V is because she's been on the pod before.
I'm back, baby.
Okay. And we have on the BabyFathers team, we have Joseph. How you doing, my bro?
I'm doing well.
Listen, bring the mic forward, please, because I can't allow you to embarrass them and them today. Yeah. All right, cool. So listen, a lot of people have been asking for this show. They were saying, oh, we need to hear the mum side, we need to hear the dad side. So we thought we'd get today's show and we're going to get both sides of the stories to see how the mother sees it to how the father sees it. All right? Cool, okay? So listen, before we start, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you press the notification so anytime an episode comes out, you're going to be the first to know. And make sure you give us the likes, all right? And if there's some things you agree with and something you don't agree with, drop it in the comments below. We'd like to hear your lot's views as well, okay? So the question I was going to ask you lot is, how long does it take for you to bring your child around a new partner?
Who's going to go first?
It's interesting.
Ooh.
I don't mind, but ladies can go first, to be honest.
All right, go on. I'll go first. Why not? I think it just depends on the circumstances. So nowadays, I would not. The last thing that I'd want to do if I started dating someone or seeing someone, I couldn't think of anything worse than them seeing my kids anytime soon. But that's because of where I'm at in life, in my journey in life. But previously, as you know, I've got two co-parents. My youngest daughter's dad's met my daughter after about 5-6 months of us seeing each other, but that was due to the circumstances that my eldest never really saw her dad because of the way he was. So it kind of happened a bit sooner than we would have liked to have been done. So again, I think it just depends on the circumstances.
Well, I think it's important for your child to be introduced to the guy, not as a boyfriend or anything like that, just as a friend, see how they get along. Because if you don't like my child, it's never gonna go any further than that. So you have to love my son like I do, nearly.
So how many months would you say?
It depends really. So obviously you meet the person, you get a feel of them, see if they're like kids even, see if they've got kids themselves, because that does make a big difference for me, I think, if the person has kids. Because obviously I know what having a kid entails if they're, full on father. But yeah, it really just depends.
Well, how many months would you say though?
It depends how you're vibing, how you're getting along. It might take longer for some people. For me, I move quite slow. I need to really suss you out, just from experience. So I'd say about maybe 3 months. Okay. A couple months, 2 to 3 months.
Joseph?
Depending.
You know what? It really depends on the relationship you have with, your partner. How well you know them. Do you know their friends? How they are around children. It really depends because everyone's different. As long as you're comfortable with your new partner and you've spoken to them about it and you've had these conversations about it, then it's down to you. It could be 2 months, it could be 3 months, it could be 4 months. It might be longer than that. It just really depends on you and their relationship. That's what I think it depends on.
But you don't think 2 months is too short?
You could be living with that person. So is 2 months too short? Time is the most expensive currency. So therefore, it depends on the quality time that you spend with your partner. At the end of the day, you might go on holidays. You might go, you might go to the football, you might go to so many different places where you get to see that person in a different light. You might go to so many different family events. So really and truly, it depends on how comfortable you are. Time could be irrelevant because you might see that person, let's say, 4 times in 4 months due to work schedule. So do you know that person as well as you should do? Maybe not.
As I've said it on the pod before, that I'm a person, I wouldn't bring someone around my kids.
Okay.
So I'm trying to say to you, unless it's a good few years.
Yeah.
You understand?
I think it also depends upon, you know, your intentions with that person, right?
That's it.
So for example, I'm married. I've been married for almost 8 years now. So for me, it's, you know, it depends on your intentions with your partner. If your intentions has been, you know what, I want to get married and I'm going to be married to you, then it's different because you got to start building that relationship from now. You got to introduce that person from now.
You put a ring on it, mate. You made an oath to God, so you ain't got a choice.
You know, so once again, it depends on your intention with your partner. Are you kind of just testing the waters with your partner? Are you looking for a long-term relationship? Are you looking for marriage? Once again, it depends on that because a child needs stability and you don't want to mess that up. And sometimes that's why you might think, you know what, let me wait a longer period of time before now I introduce my child to my partner or vice versa.
So obviously you've got a child out before in a previous relationship.
Yeah.
How was you able to introduce your child, even though you had the mum to introduce to your wife? How was you able to do that?
I think at that time it was literally, from what I remember, we're going many years back now. But I think we were just going shopping, right? And the thing is, like, and I knew my wife now for a couple of months, right? But the intentions were that, you know, it's got to be a serious relationship. You know, I wasn't about playing about. Does that make sense? So we was going shopping. I'm like, you know what, come along and let's see. At the end of the day, you know, I'm like, yeah, my friend, she's coming with us. Is that all right? My daughter's going to say yes. Does that make sense? You know, because she's comfortable with me and comfortable with the decisions that I make. And the thing is, as a father, you got to make your daughter or your child be comfortable around you. And if they're comfortable around you, they'll be comfortable with anyone else you bring around them.
Perception's key. Communication. You could have the clearest communication all day long, but if the perception on the other person isn't quite there, like whether it's a child or an adult, it doesn't matter how clear the communication is. That's the only problem. But I think it does depend, though. It really does depend. I agree with everything you're saying, but it does depend because the intentions have to be on both ends. So you could both have those intentions, but say you could have those intentions, be like, do you know what, this is perfect. This is the woman I want to marry. This is the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. You've introduced her to your kids. How do you not know she was going to do a 180 2 months later? And this is the problem. And
that's the thing.
This is the risk we have to take.
Kids are very intelligent. And you can like this woman or man all you like, but if your child doesn't like them because they sense something that's quite off, because they do. My son's done it before. How do you handle that?
All right, so how did you obviously go about into telling the other parent, your ex-partner, that you was going to introduce your child to somebody else?
He wanted me to meet his son first. So I wasn't actually ready, and I'll be honest with you, I did say that to him. I wasn't ready for us to meet each other's kids yet, and I wanted to, take it a lot more slower. I didn't want to just throw that on my daughter. His son was 4 years older than my daughter this time, so he was a bit more older, and he had questions. So while at the time I had some things going on with his son's mother, so she was obviously reacting quite badly to it all, you could say, and she didn't want me to meet the son, but he wanted me to meet him because his son was asking loads of questions, whereas my daughter was too young to ask questions. So I didn't really need to deal with that part. And then, So
why was you not ready to meet?
Because I wanted to just enjoy it all first. I'd been in a relationship for 4.5, nearly 5 years with my eldest daughter's dad. And I just wanted some time to just carry on, just enjoying, just getting to know myself again, as well as just chilling with my daughter. I was just kind of getting back.
Okay.
I was just getting myself back, because I lost myself for a long time. So
yeah,
that's the best way I can really put it out there.
So what kind of man are you looking for if they are coming into your settings to have your child? Like what kind of things are you expecting him to bring to the table?
Just to be stable and be loyal and just honest, I suppose. That's literally all it is. And there's not many of them out there.
You said a key word. You said tolerate or compromise.
Tolerate. Some people you think they're nice as pie, and then when they get around a kid that's having a tantrum, they switch. You've got to be careful.
But then if someone's tolerating, they can only tolerate for a certain period of time. But if someone's compromising, they're compromising for you.
If you can't, but if you can't tolerate my situation, you have to get out. If I can see you can't tolerate it, you've got to go. So there's no compromisation when it comes to my child.
Especially if you're getting like a sensory overload because the child's crying and you're pissed off. Like, you've been at work all day, you know, that's not your child. It triggers you in a different kind of way if it's not your child. And some people you might catch them on just a bad day and they're like, you know what? Your kid just keeps being naughty. Your kid's just too naughty. Like, I've seen those memes on Instagram. I've seen some people.
Would you let somebody else discipline your child? Would you let, if you didn't have a wife, of course, would you let your other half discipline your kid?
I think once again, it depends on your relationship with that person.
Yeah.
You know, because...
And their relationship with the kid.
Because one thing and the reason why I picked up on the word tolerate is because tolerating is a short-term fix, whereas compromising is long-term. So you're compromising.
Yeah.
But would you let a man that's come into your life discipline your kid?
It depends how.
Do you know what? It depends how.
That.
Like, if a guy just randomly just started, you know, like trying to tell my kid off, like, if they just randomly just started, then I'd be like, whoa, can you watch how you know, you would instantly go into mama bear mode. But at the same time,
I don't mind someone disciplining my child if it's for the best for the child.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be active around my child and you're with the mum, I'm expecting you to play a role where you're looking out for my child, innit?
Yeah,
so
that's it. Yeah.
As long as you're not hitting my child, but you're guiding them the way to show them that
you would agree with.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's constructive if it's, you know, for the best.
So would you let your child call the other person dad or mum then?
I knew that was coming.
No, there's not really, well, it depends if the other dad's not, okay, I probably spoke a bit too soon on that one.
Yeah, I can see why some people might allow, you know, their child to do that, because I know people that have, you know, raised the child from birth. And they're not their dad, they're not the biological dad, but they've raised them, so they call them dad or they call them mum.
Yeah.
So it depends on that. Obviously, when you've had a kid and you've raised them on your own, and then you have someone come into your life, I wouldn't feel comfortable, you know, allowing my child to do that because he knows who his dad is.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing. They can see him as a father figure if they're a good, you know, a good one.
So if your child turned around and said, "Well, I want to start calling him dad,"
if it's their choice, it's a bit of a difficult one, isn't it? Are they both comfortable with it? Are they both comfortable?
And is the other dad's like on the scene enough for it to be like a possibility? So like if I went and got like a new partner over the next few years and then my youngest daughter tried to call them dad, I'd be like, no, like you very much know who your dad is. You've got a great dad, you know? So that it'd be, but if her dad wasn't in her life at all and then this guy came along, became that role model in her life, and then years later she was like, look, you know, I see him as my dad. I'd like to start calling him dad. You know, that's something that can be discussed in the future. But I guess if it's just a quick wham, bam, I want to start calling them dad, that's a bit of a...
Joseph?
It's a tricky one. And I'll say, you know, like the ladies have said, it depends on the circumstances, you know. It's like, you know, how well does that child know, I don't know, my partner, you know, hasn't happened, still calls her auntie, if that makes sense. Friend, then it was auntie, because she has a mum, you know. So it's, with the child, is how much is that other parent in their life? And like you said, how comfortable is that child with that person? If that person is, if the child is really comfortable with that person, then yeah, they will call them either mum, or will call them dad. And they may ask you, they may have a conversation with you, and whatever the child is comfortable with, you kind of run with that, to be fair, because if they're comfortable with it, then, you know,
I think it depends. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I think it depends on our effort as well as the parent, you know, because I actually know someone who is in a relationship with somebody who's got a co-parent, and because she's so heavily involved in this man's life, so the woman I know, obviously it's a woman, because she's so heavily involved in their life, and the guy's co-parent isn't, you know, as hands-on as this woman is. This woman's a lot more maternal, a lot more like, you know, in there. The other woman's not quite the same. So the kids feel more comfortable calling this woman, who's more like the stepmom. They actually call her mummy sometimes. And it actually ended up becoming a bit of a tiff at one point. The whole thing became a tiff over like, you know, I don't want them calling her mummy and blah, blah, blah. But again, kids just kind of sway with whatever goes, you know, they literally just go with the wave. So if you as a mother or a father or whatever is not putting enough into your child, and then that child's going and calling someone else mummy or daddy or whatever the case is, no offense, that's probably more on your head, like, and how much effort you put into them. But you can get the odd spiteful person that'll be like, you know, call
Exactly.
them mummy, call them daddy. You know, this
Yeah.
is your new mummy. Like, and those people can't all get them.
If you got married, would you give them the other person's surname, or would you leave it to be the surname they have?
Killing me.
You're getting me.
Do you know what? It's so I don't know. I'm 50-50 with it. And I can change my mind even. But because me and my son have different surnames. He's got his dad's surname.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I was to have another kid, out of wedlock, let's just say,
Okay.
and then we've all got different surnames.
So I did.
Like,
I don't know. I know exactly
Yeah.
what you're about to say. That's exactly what I did. We've all
Or
got
how do you
different.
feel about that? Because I'd be like, oh, if you go to the doctors or something, and then they're going, you know, blah blah blah, and they all got different names, and it's like, oh, I want us to all be one like kind of unit.
Family.
So you would change
Right.
his name?
Yeah, only because the dad, well, my son's dad is, you know, he's not a good one, so I probably would.
Really?
50-50.
Do you know what? I totally, do you know what? It is a 50-50. But if I think my eldest daughter turned around to him one day and went, JJ, you know, I want to take your last name because of what my dad's like, blah, blah, blah. I think you'd be like, yeah, do you know what? Go on then. Why not?
Joseph, what do you say on this?
Now you see, I think
Don't be on the defense to say how it is.
I think it's good to ask a child, and the reason why I say that is because the surname I have now wasn't the same surname that I was born with. So funny enough, the question that you're asking, but my mum asked me. She was like, "Okay."
So you took yours at your stepdad's?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The difference is it depends on whether your dad is fully in your life. Because if you don't know your dad, then why ultimately are you taking his name? Does that make sense? It's like if you're meant to be representing your family or representing the name, but you don't know your dad, then what are you representing? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, so for me, I was like, I'm fine with it. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? You know, I've got my dad's got other children and their names are, you know, the last name that I had before. But, oh, you two are brothers. Said, yep, I had the last name before.
Is it all about representation though? Because there's things like
I like
family
that.
tree. If you want to get old, if you get older and they want to find out who they are, how are they going to find out who they are with somebody else's surname? There's things like that as well that you've got to think about.
I think once again, you know, whenever we make decisions,
Plus,
we
some
make
dads are around from the get-go.
Yeah, and
like
I
and then
said,
disappear.
It depends on the
Just saying.
circumstances.
Get
Depends
milk.
on the
No, it's true.
situation. And for me, I felt comfortable enough to do so. Does that make sense? You know. Now the thing is, I will always know most of my dad's side of my family, right? But I didn't know a lot of them until like later on. So, for example, like
Same, actually.
one of my
Same,
cousins, like I didn't meet like one of my brothers until I was 18. Called me, said, "Yeah, is it Joseph? Yep, this so and so." I said, "What's your dad's name?" He said, "Yeah." I like, "Raw, okay." And then a couple of months later, I met my cousins and I met a whole another side of my family. Now, just because we don't have the same surname doesn't mean that we're not connected. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
And it's been
might
really
not always be the
emotional.
case. That might not always be the case for some people. Say if you change somebody's surname, you know, when they're younger, or your child's surname when they're younger, and they get older and they know that that's not their biological dad, they're going to think, oh, who is my dad then? Or
Yeah,
who is
and
my
go
mum
for-
even?
yeah.
And I want to find out more information. So there's that. I can understand why some people don't change surname because of those types of things as well.
Well, with my kids, no one ain't changing no one's names. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just me.
Yeah.
What surname what they came with, they represented myself, and that name needs to continue. The only way how the girls can change their names,
When they get married.
they get married. That's the only way they could change their names. What boundaries do you set with your ex-partners? So what boundaries do you set with them in terms of phoning, them coming around to the house? What boundaries do you not set?
I don't have like a great relationship with my son's dad at all. But when he wouldn't see him for a very long time, over a year, and then all of a sudden see him and then try to discipline him about things that I've already put in place. So things like that really used to get right on my nerves because he's not a good disciplinarian.
So what time would you say be the latest time he could phone your phone?
The latest time he could call me, is it for my child?
Well, it's just the
Because
boundaries. What's the
Those
latest
boundaries, I would rather he didn't call. Text would be all right, you know, if it's important.
time? Why do you prefer text?
We just don't get along. We just do not get along.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know.
V?
Well, with my eldest daughter's dad's, to be honest, the boundaries I had to put in place, I had to personally put in place because he triggers me. So honestly, he just triggers me. But it's a completely different situation. Whereas me and my youngest daughter's dad made a decision a long time ago, just made a routine, which was these are the set days, set times, you see your daughter, this is what goes on. And unless there's something that we're kind of like faffing with in between, we don't really need to communicate with each other unless it's just like a little, instead of picking them up from here this time, can you pick them up from here? We don't really need to communicate about any of those things because we have something put in place, and it just saves us both the ball. It just saves both of us. So that works for us. Whereas like I said, my eldest daughter's dad, you can't do it. So the boundaries that we have in place is we don't really get on. So we simply do not go around each other's houses. It's as simple as that. There's no need. We don't get on. You don't need to come into my space. I definitely don't need to come into yours. Yeah. There should be a set routine with seeing his child, but unfortunately he doesn't quite know how to stay consistent with it. So you just got to keep the personal boundaries there at the end of the day, but we don't faff with none of that. But if he did try and turn around to me and ring me up at 11 o'clock at night, I would not answer, but I would text him back at 7:30 in the morning when I wake up and say, good morning, sorry, didn't get your message last night, what's up? And just keep it more along that. And if he can't cooperate with something that simple and normal, then it just goes to show that there's kind of ill intentions there, which I also do not need to entertain.
Joseph?
You know, you hit the nail on the head right there.
Thank you.
It's the intention, right? What's the intention of that person calling you? What's the intention of that person messaging you? For me, ultimately it's like, my situation, I'm married, I've got, other children and what so not within the household. So respect that, don't call after certain time.
What time was your certain time? What's your curfew time, would you say?
To be fair, right, unless it's an emergency, right? Okay, unless it's an emergency, but even if it's an emergency, that's something that you could deal with as well, because there's distance between where I live and where my child is. So if it's an emergency, how quick can I get there? Does that make sense? But I would say, really and truly, I would say after 9, 10 o'clock, really and truly. But more time after 8 o'clock, I'm with the kids, I'm with my wife. Like,
it's just basic human decency.
Yeah.
For me, boundaries are, respect my position, respect my position as a man, as a husband, as a father. Just respect that. And if you come, we all know when we're crossing the line, right? We all kind of know, but it's whether we choose to cross that line and if our intentions are bad, if that makes sense.
I know obviously you've got a good relationship with your youngest daughter's dad. Do you have any boundaries when he contacts you? Do you think, there's anything?
Do you know what? That's a really good question. If he did ring me at like 9, 10 o'clock at night, I would be like, what's he ringing for? But I wouldn't be angry about it. Literally respect and keeping that level of respect.
Would you let your ex-partner come inside your house?
Well, he is welcome to come inside my house because of the relationship he's got with both of the girls. He's got a really good relationship with them.
So the one who doesn't have a good relationship, would you allow him to come inside the house?
There's no need for him to be in my space. No, but there is no need because of the way, the way things are with the co-parenting sides of things. He's not very consistent. He's not hands-on with anything, so no offense, why should you get that? You don't get that accessibility.
So you're saying it's luxurious to come inside your house then? So you're saying it's luxurious to come inside your house?
It is luxurious to come inside my house, especially if you're not sticking to the date you're supposed to be seeing my daughter and, things like that. That's her home. That's her safe space. Like if you think you can just come in there willy-nilly and then be inconsistent with that also, she hasn't got a safe place. So no. And unless he did decide, to sort that out. But if I'm honest with you, the guy wouldn't really come in there anyway. I think it's too triggering for him.
What was the question again?
The question was, well, if you was going to go and pick up your daughter, would you go inside the mum's house to get your daughter?
For me, now there's no need. My daughter's old enough. She knows what time I'm coming. I message her, I'm here, and she comes out. I think with every relationship, right, someone gets hurt, right? And once again, it depends on how hurt you actually are and I guess how long it takes you to get over that. Because if someone is hurt, especially a woman, and for me, my experience has been if a woman gets hurt, it continues for a long period of time. That's my experience.
So would you say that what we've just said is us being hurt women?
What I would say is, if you remember what I said at the beginning,
you're saying.
No. If you remember what I said at the beginning, right? At the beginning of a relationship, you have a certain connection with that person, right? Okay. And at the end of the day, you've experienced some sort of trauma, right? Okay. Now, what happens is that with that trauma, when you see that person again, if you haven't had good experience with that person, then that comes back. That's from my experience. That kind of comes back.
I had traumatic experience with my son's dad. However, I don't care.
You
I don't care.
You've lost would you say you lost the trust, the respect, and the love?
I don't need to have those things for him anymore. So it's just completely gone. It's completely out of my brain.
So let me ask you this question then.
That.
Yeah.
So, do you still have a relationship with their in-laws? So, like with their parents and their siblings?
Yeah, with both. Well, my eldest daughter's dad, I'm very close with his mum. I think she's an amazing woman. I think his dad is one of the strongest men that I know. I think they're both brilliant. And we've butt heads over the whole situation many times, but we still end up good and we get on because we have my daughter's best interest at heart. My youngest daughter's dad, even though we're not together, I get on with everyone in his family. Like, I'm still quite close with his sister and I'll still see her. We'll meet ups every now and then and, like, you know, chill.
All right, so Jose, let me ask you then, because you kind of have a situation where you are married.
Yeah.
So was you able to still get along with your old partner's parents?
So only the dad is alive. The mum's not. And my daughter's mum has a sister, and we're cool. Does that make sense? You know, if I need to speak to her about something, give him a call. If I need to speak to the dad about something, need to visit the dad, I'll be like, you know what, let's meet up. Does that make sense? You know.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I'm just a calm, I'm a mellow guy. For me, like, I reason a lot, and I compromise a lot. Does that make sense? So it's very difficult when, you know, your partner is difficult, or your partner, your ex partner is difficult, or they have, I don't know, they experience trauma. Now, for me, my situation is very different, and the reason why is, you say ex, but I was never in the relationship. It was a very short period of time. Okay. Does that make sense? So even with that, for me, I don't actually understand why, I guess, the
energy,
the negative energy is still there. That's why, I guess, ladies, I said in my experience, there's trauma there. Some people,
I think it just depends on the person.
It depends
And how they handle it. Because the same boiling water that hardens the egg softens the potato. So I really do think it depends, and on your characteristics, how you're raised, and what kind of outlook you've got on life, and how much you love your child. And like I said before, perception as well as communication. So I just want to point out with the in-laws, my daughter's nan and that, it took time. Don't get me wrong, we butt heads multiple times. We've had our tiffs.
But you made the effort.
But we made the effort and we stuck through it, and eventually we got through it. And now it's been 10 years and I love that woman. She's one of my favourite people, you know,
all right,
regardless.
So let me throw in a scenario then, right? So you go to your mum's house to visit your mum, right? While you go to your mum's house, you see your ex-partner sitting down having a drink with your mum. What's your first thoughts?
I think my mum's an absolute pagan. How dare she? No,
I've got a really sticky one, because my ex, he really likes my mum, and if they see each other in the street, I mean they live far away from each other, but if that was to ever happen, my mum would have a full-blown conversation with him, knowing full well what he's done in the past, and that he's not present with his kid. So that, in that aspect, that winds me up.
Yeah,
because I wouldn't do something like that. I'd be having a conversation of what what are you doing?
That's a much better way of putting it, by the way.
Why are you not present? So, yeah, that part would really not. In fact, half my family would probably do.
All right, so a question I can ask then. So, if you're dating somebody and they have a problem with your ex-partner being around your family, what would you say to your partner?
I think this applies to you rather than me, because I don't.
Does that make sense?
Have that situation?
What do you mean?
So say if you're dating someone, right, and you're turning up to your parents' house and you're seeing your mum having a tea with your ex-partner, but you with your new partner, and he's telling you, listen, I don't really like what I'm seeing here. That needs to stop. Would you entertain that? Or what would you say to him?
Well, you know,
He has a problem.
It depends. If my ex is just creeping and he's just coming round and just manipulating my mum for a cup of tea just so he can chat about me, then yeah, I'd kind of be like, you know, don't worry, mate, this isn't going to happen often. But if they do actually have a good relationship, and again, it depends, because my eldest daughter's dad, it just simply wouldn't happen. He wouldn't be around my mum's house, and if he did, I wouldn't be very happy about it because for the same reasons. But my youngest daughter's dad, like I said, if he was around there having a cup of tea with my mum and I had a new partner and they had a problem with it, I'd be like, look, regardless, that's family, because that's just how my family dynamic works. And I don't mean the family I made. I'm talking about the family I came from. Like my eldest daughter's dad, my older sister's dad, because some of my siblings have a different dad to me. Even though it was my mum's ex-husband, used to come around for Christmas, birthdays, sit there and chill with my dad, and it was normalised for me from young to be mature and get on because we're all family and we're all connected.
Family.
Yeah, and we're all connected. And you can either sit there and be a child about it and, you know, throw your toys from the pram and say, I don't want this person in the same room as me. But if you're all genuinely nice people and you can all get on and everyone can just put the silliness and the past aside, then there's no reason, especially if no dramas come up anyway, which some people were quite lucky. Like I said, like me and my youngest daughter's dad, me and his partner, we're quite lucky in that aspect. We've never had a reason to butt heads. I've never had a reason to think negative about her. Hopefully it's the same with her with me. And so we've never had that, you know? So it just depends.
Joseph?
It depends on the boundaries at the end of the day. So, okay, if we look at the scenario, okay, all right. If we look at the scenario, okay, all right. You know, you're a parent, you know, they're a parent, you have a, you know, child together, right? If your mum and them have a good relationship, then they have a good relationship. But in terms of my situation, they don't. And they don't have a good relationship because of a lot of things that she's done. Does that make sense?
In the past. So is that the child's mother, the BM's
correct,
done to you or to your mum?
A bit of both, to be fair, you know. So once again, like, I don't know, I'm always about relationships, you know. For me, the relationship has to be positive. It has to be good, you know, the intentions has to be good. So for me, would I question, it wouldn't happen. I think there's a lot of people that we have in our life that we want to have in our lives, and there's certain people that we prefer not to have in our lives. And we can't choose family, but we can choose our partners. And for me, what I've learned is that it's very important to get to know that person. It's really important, because otherwise it plays a big part in your life. Yes, children are a blessing, but also at the same time, you know, you have people who are good, and you also have people who have bad intentions, and people who have experienced trauma. And the reason why I speak from trauma, I speak from a psychological background, I speak from a relationship background, I speak from a background where, you know, I try to always understand people and where they're coming from, whether they come from a bad situation or a good situation. And for me, I try to compromise a lot. Does that make sense?
But is there only so much compromise you can do, though? Because you can keep on trying to be nice and nice and nice and nice. And the more nice you seem to be sometimes, the more they want to take the piss out of you.
What would you do?
Well, in that situation, what situation, say? What situation,
You
say?
went around to your mum's house, visit your mum, and then your kid's mum is there.
See, that's a bit of a hard one, because my setup is pretty different, because my kids' mothers actually all kind of get along with each other.
Relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that says a lot about you, I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does. It says a lot about you. And that's not me trying to toot your horn, but it's true.
Well, I'm tooting it, don't I?
But it does. Otherwise, because if you were a bit of a knob, then 9 out of 10 these women would all clash.
Yeah.
So.
I think that they're good mothers, good women.
You know.
And they also think about the kids.
Yeah.
So in terms of having a relationship with my mum, once again, she's also she's good to all of them. So there's no favoritism or nothing like that. So she can talk to all of them. She would phone them up to ask them how the kids are getting on. So she'll do that out of her own self. If my partner who I was with did have a problem with my kids' mothers being there, that would be a problem with me and her, I think.
Yeah.
Because that set up what I've had and built from.
You've invested in it.
Can't be broken.
Yeah. So I'm going to let someone outsider come in to try and to undo that.
To ruin that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
All right. So if you're living with your partner and something needs doing in the child's room, would you let your partner do it, or would you let the father of the child come and do it?
Well, okay, that's a good way of looking at it. Okay, it depends who's in the room at the time. If my daughter's dad is around and he could do it, well, also it depends on how far gone I am with this, new relationship. If it's just, I'm just dating them and it's just kind of they've only just met my child, or if it is quite serious with them and they kind of are at that point where they're very comfortable around there and they could do it, then I guess it doesn't really matter who does it if they're both close with the child. If my new partner doesn't really know my child like that and they're not close, then I would rather ask my daughter's dad. And if they had a problem with it, then that'd be a bit petty, really, wouldn't it?
I personally would find I haven't been in that situation. I don't need to be in that situation. But
build ourselves.
But I mean, I'm not going to contact my son's ex. But I mean, I would find it disrespectful.
Joseph?
I think even if the relationship is good, it's not his responsibility. He doesn't live there now. If he did live there,
Yeah, but it's not really the new man's responsibility either.
No, it's not the father's responsibility necessarily to fix something in a house that he doesn't live in, right? You can call a handyman. You actually can call. There's an option. You go.
Why do I have to go through these extra miles?
And you can get a handyman to actually do it.
I would find it disrespectful to call the guy, the kid's dad, but I don't think it's a thing to say he's not responsible.
But
he's responsible for everything to do with the kid.
Yeah,
he's responsible for everything to do with the child,
including where the child lives.
But is he responsible for fixing? All right, put it this way. In that case, then I would just call a handyman then. Because
the guy can do it. The son's, your kid's dad can do it.
And the baby mum's
call a handyman. Why would you spend money on a handyman?
So let's say, for example,
if the baby mum's not asking you to paint her bedroom, she's can you just paint my bedroom and put up these blinds for me and my new man?
What if you're putting up? What if you're doing the whole room up? You're redoing the whole room. You want to put a bed, put up a little unit or something like that. You don't think the dad's responsible for that?
But is the dad responsible for doing that?
For helping out,
or helping out? Because there's a difference. Because now you got to look at the dynamics. You perfectly said, she's
really got a man there.
That's right. She's already got a man there, but also
I'm looking at both sides.
Also, the father's also got a partner. So why is he leaving his house to come and wait?
Remember what you said about compromising?
Come to fix. But the thing is, compromise. Yeah, but you're leaving your own space.
What if she bought the bunk beds and she just wants you to build them?
Yeah, but
you're gonna be like, no.
You're going to say,
not
no,
my problem.
My responsibility.
This isn't my house. This isn't my bedroom.
Not that the child is.
I'll build it in my own house.
Not at all.
He's going to have 2 beds now.
Not that the child is not the responsibility. It's not your responsibility. Yes, the child is your responsibility. You're meant to make sure that the child is taken care of financially, emotionally, spiritually, for those people who have that spiritual connection in God and what's not. That's your responsibility, and making sure that they're safe. Right? Now, once again, it depends on the dynamics between you and the partner, but really and truly, it's like, why are you coming over to fix something where if you live together, yes, you're doing that.
I understand where you're coming from, but I don't know if I completely agree.
But what if she can't build the bunk beds herself? This is the problem.
Let me put my hands up to this, because this has happened to me very recently.
Yes.
So
handyman.
So my daughter's mother must hit me up.
Yep.
When we spoke, and she's doing the daughter's room. Do I mind if I can come and help?
Yeah.
Whatever, cool. So bear in mind, me and his mum hasn't really seen eye to eye in the last few years. But I was able to put that aside because I was doing this for my daughter. So me going to paint my daughter's room for her, for one, we were spending time. So I first started doing the room. Then her mum helped to stand down the wall. Bear in mind, both got headphones on. Yeah. Both we're in the same space, but she's doing her thing, I'm doing my thing. Right? And then from there, she then went downstairs. My daughter came upstairs. And then, because this is the part when I'm now starting to paint. Started painting, got it all out the way. Must have done about, just after 10. But even still, me and her mum wasn't able... Well, we'd see eye to eye, but not eye to eye. So it's very just on a level, isn't it?
Yeah.
But to see me and my daughter playing that room together, and then she's now lying in that room knowing that, bro, me and her paying that room
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
that memory's going to live
And
with
she
her.
won't
Would you
forget
turn
that.
around? Yeah. Would you turn around and say, "That's not my responsibility. You've got a man."
Well, when it comes to my daughter, if there's a man around or not,
Is there some pride in you that would say you don't want the other man to do it?
really and truly, I wouldn't want no other guy to do anything for any of my kids.
Yeah.
Once
You understand?
again, you know earlier on when you asked the question, right? You asked the question, would you let your ex-partner come into the house? He was like, nah.
I'm talking about other people. I'm generalizing the situation. Me personally, my situation, that wouldn't happen with my
So-
situation. But if I look, at the bigger picture, and you do have a healthy, even if you don't like your situation, and it's not enough for her to not let you in the house. She's actually asked you. She's invited you in to come and do it for your daughter.
And is actually needing your assistance in the
Needing your help.
situation. Yeah.
In that type of situation, I can't speak on my own because it would never happen. But when I look at situations like that, I wouldn't. Yeah, I completely agree with what you've done.
I think it.
Maybe the painting our house, that might be a different conversation
it's the child's
altogether.
room and
It's
it's-
because of my daughter's
I
room.
think it really depends on the situation. Your situation,
Yeah, it
like you
wouldn't
said,
happen.
you spoke on, and we can only speak from our situations or our
Experience.
experiences, right?
And opinions as well.
Yeah, and yes, and our opinions, And once again, it just depends upon. It's almost like you haven't spoken in X amount of time, and then all of a sudden you're getting a call. It's like, what are the intentions? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It
You're
just
thinking, what's the
depends on-
motive? What's
it
the
depends on,
motive?
or
100%
is this
no.
person taking a mickey?
There's been a time years ago I actually asked my daughter's dad, could you go halves with me on a new bed for her? He was like, no. Like, that's not my house. She's got her own bedroom here. Why would
No,
she
you-
need any of that?
You
So,
see, if
she's
that
getting
was the
double.
case, then I'd be like, yeah. But my thing is, I don't need to come into your space to do. For me,
Yeah.
if she like, halves, I'd be like, yeah, cool, no worries. If you need it for holiday, cool, yeah. But in terms of, because I see a home as that's your home and this is my home,
but
innit?
if she's not asking you to buy anything, just literally just to help out
Yeah.
for your daughter or your child, would you not want to do that?
These things are
think-
expensive, bro. So
I
why she
think-
don't need a 1,500 bed over here? Why
That
500?
he's talking
Babes
about
got
the room.
pride. You got to drop your
I
pride
think-
and be
Yeah.
like,
I
this is for
think
my child.
I think ultimately it's like, for me, I think I said at the beginning, time is the most expensive currency, right? And it's where you spend your time in it. For me, I spend my time with my children. To that
Yeah.
extent, very good quality time with my children. And for me, it's like, yes, it can be for her, but also a handyman can actually do it because just because
Okay, fine.
because what I'm saying is,
handyman.
So would you contribute then to the handyman to do the room?
How much are you going
if
to chip
she-
in
if
towards
she
the
needed-
handyman?
if she
They're
needed-
expensive.
Put it this way, if she needed certain things, no, I'm being
go
honest.
halvesies.
Like for me, if she needed certain things to do her room, fine. Because that's going towards her. But my thing is, if it was me, let's say for example, she goes, you know what? Yeah, I want you and your daughter to do the room. Okay, then I'm spending time with my daughter to do the room. That's different. Do you get what I'm saying? But for me to invest something in someone else's house, that's not my wife, that's different.
But I'm not
And
asking you to pay for my
that's-
Sky bill.
I know my child is there.
Isn't that more important than anything?
My
The
child's
child more
happiness is
than-
important.
yeah. So
my child happiness is important.
so you wouldn't contribute to your child's room in
That
the
is
house
a
that she
bit of
lives in?
pride. That is a little bit of pride.
You asked me the question, and what did I say?
Well, I don't know.
Didn't I say yes? I did say yes.
You
But
said yeah.
Yeah.
So if she asked she needed a handyman to sort out the room because you don't want to do it,
You know what? At the end of the
Would you-
day,
would you contribute
at
to that?
the end of the day, right? Yeah. Like I said, handyman is there. Handyman can do that, right?
And
now,
would you
like I
contribute to
said,
that?
the handyman.
Yeah.
so if you found out it
He
cost a
doesn't want to
one-off.
say yes.
So you just found out
No,
it cost
wait.
£100 for this handyman to come
Wait.
out here and build this bunk bed.
At
Would
the-
you pay the 50
at
quid
the
towards
end
this
of the
handyman?
day, as long as it keeps my daughter happy, then I'm doing it. But
What if it
but
made
for
her
me-
happier
but
watching
for me
you build
to-
it?
What I'm saying is, for me to invest my time to do that, not really.
So I'm going to ask you lot a question then. Do you think it's a dad's job to go half and half with all the stuff that the mum decides what she wants to do?
It has to be a joint decision.
Yeah, again, it does depend, because say, for example, the child's like welfare and best interest. Like my daughter's got a school trip coming up. It's costing me £200 frigging pound, mate. That's coming out of my pocket. That's coming out of my pocket. I've received not even 100. I don't need to get into detail, but I haven't even received a month's worth of child support in the last 7 months. So if I'm also having to pay for things like this on top of her daily living, her clothes, she is growing out of her clothes like it's nobody's business. Her shoe size is going up like it's crazy. She's got bigger feet than me. Like what? Like I've never, and I've got to stay on top of these things. So if he's not contributing to any of these things, it does make a huge impact. But like I said, if I'm choosing to come out the way and be like, oh, do you know what? I'm going to go to the shop. My daughter's begging me for a bottle of Prime and this and that. And it's just stupid, expensive unnecessary things. I'm not going to go and ring up her dad and be like, right, I've just spent this amount in so-and-so on your daughter. I need half the money. Like, I'm not a donut. But in the basic necessities, you should contribute. Like, you shouldn't even have to ask.
I'm saying half. So you lot was referring him to about buying beds in a house and buying wardrobe. But if he's got his own house, and he's already got the room built in his house, he didn't ask the mum for no money when he built the house in his.
Unfortunately, that's the situation.
Yeah.
Your child lives in another household that also needs support.
But hold on a minute. But if he's got his own house, and he bought the bed, he bought the wardrobe, he's done everything in the house, in his house, for when his daughter comes around to stay in there. He didn't ask the mum for a penny.
Okay, if he didn't ask.
He didn't ask the mum for a penny.
I would never actually ask her.
No, of course,
but
but this is now bear in mind, like, say we put the financial situation aside for a second, Jess. Say, okay, your child's got a bedroom at yours and a bedroom at hers.
Yeah.
You're capable of building a double bed. What makes you think your baby mum is? So if she turns around to you and goes, look, I'm gonna buy this bunk bed. I'm more than willing to put the money in and buy this bunk bed. I will pay for every penny, but I can't build this bunk bed alone. Can you please come around and help me? Would you still not put your pride aside and come around and help her?
Do you know what? For me,
I don't know, mate. You're thinking about it now. Dragging on.
The thing is, you've asked the question a few times, and you asked me, would I contribute towards the bed? I said yes. I didn't say no.
I just said put the financial side situation. We're putting the financial situation aside.
So you talk about putting your muscles together.
For me,
I can't. I'm a small woman. Your child's now got to deal with having some bust down mattress on the floor because I'm not strong enough to build this double bunk bed. But because of your pride and you got a great double bunk bed that your child's going to use twice every 14 days. But you're going to sit there with your chest puffed out and be like, that's cool. I don't need to help her with that because that's not my yard. That's not my bedroom. Not my problem. Not my monkeys. Not my circus. You, my friend, would be a waste man.
I think...
No.
That's just me being real. That's not saying you personally. Anyone that would do that. That's me being real.
I think, once again, it depends on every situation. It depends on the relationship with the person. It depends on your relationship also with the child. It depends on the circumstances.
I was about to say that. Do you think sometime... The reason why you may be so distant is because sometimes it can be the experience you've had in the past where you're like to yourself, I wouldn't want to put myself back in that situation again. So that's the reason why I prefer not to come round to do the room, because there maybe can be...
That's okay. I think that it's okay for you to not actually want to go into the home. But if you want to contribute, like you said, to a handyman, that's also...
Just got to put that aside, man.
Remember you said, stop being nicey. The thing is, for me, like I said, I'm open and I compromise, but it's like for everyone, there's a line that you don't want to cross. Does that make sense? So for me, for example, I'll give you an example, right? I think my daughter was having, her school wanted her to do like a project to basically make apple crumble, right? She made an apple crumble at her dad's place, her granddad's place, right? And she was like, oh, Dad, can you help me sell all of these apple crumbles and the smoothies? I'm like, cool. Went on my phone, I message all my friends, I travelled from Northwest London to North London to South London to like for her, for me, and I was with her. So for me, it's all about the quality time. Yeah, that's for me. So if I'm using my time, I'm using my time with her. Does that make sense? Do
you feel like when you're married and you've got your unit at home already, and then you have a child outside of that marriage, does it make things more difficult for you to actually take responsibility?
It doesn't make things more difficult to take responsibility, but what it now when you're married, you now have two families, right? And not that all of your time is going to your family at home, but you need to realize that just because a dad is not present within a household doesn't mean that he's not present emotionally within that child's heart and that child's mind, right? Okay, so just because I don't go and do the room, does that make me a bad dad?
Okay,
that's my question.
Like, just in general, do you feel like it's more difficult to,
It's more difficult to parent?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say it's more difficult, because one thing is, when you marry a person, right, or you're with that person for a long period of time, right, you know that person and that person knows you, right? So everything that you come with, they accept that. The thing is, my situation is not that my wife doesn't accept anything, right? She accepts everything, me wholeheartedly. Does that make sense? So any decisions that I'm making, yes, I make the final decision, but we communicate. And that's why I said that communication is important. So for me to be in the household, to do what you was asking, for me, it's not really comfortable for me. That's why I wouldn't. Does that make sense?
Would you say that's safeguarding yourself as well?
Yeah, I would say that because
So we were saying about like the barriers.
Yeah,
Boundaries.
boundaries. Because you asked about boundaries, and that would be one of my boundaries. That's why I said a handyman. And the thing is, it's like some mums would probably prefer, just pay for a handyman. You don't need to come. Does that make sense? So at the end of the day, as long as the job gets done, that's the main thing.
Yeah, I guess it does depend on your personal experience as well, because like I said, and like you said, how well you know someone, because if I did turn around to my second co-parent and said, I'm going to build this bunk bed, he'd be like, yeah, go on then, have fun, because he knows me well enough to know that I would do it. Whereas if I turned around to my eldest daughter's dad, well, to be honest, it just wouldn't even come out my mouth, to be honest with you. But if in the circumstances of how things went with me and him, like I said earlier, he really triggers me. He wouldn't come around my house because it would really trigger him. So because of the past experiences we've had with each other, there's multiple reasons why if I said to him, can you come around and build this bed? He probably wouldn't do it. But his main reasons, unfortunately, wouldn't be with the best intentions, but his other reasons would then get to more, like deeper parts, like I don't want to go in that house again. I don't want to be around the energy that, that I used to be around. I've got past that point in my life. I've moved on, and it's going back, isn't it, into toxic patterns that you've got yourself out of. So I guess it does depend. So I guess like you've obviously been through your own personal experience to make that decision, and I totally respect that.
All right, listen, why I'm going to bring, because obviously time is getting on, so we ain't got long left, right? And there was something that I did want to bring up today, all right? So I was driving down today. I've got a phone call from my brethren. The school was basically teaching her child. All right. So let me just go into this quickly and bring it up and ask you what your lot's views are on this. All right.
Oh, Lord of mercy.
So it's to do with your kids. All right. So it's teaching your kids about the same sex relationships in school, and this is from the age of 5.
Oh,
this is what they seem to be doing in year 1 now.
There is no need whatsoever.
What's your take on it?
I think
There
it's
is no need.
I will start with you first, Rachel.
It's completely unnecessary. I don't think any child of that age needs to learn about sex in general. What do they need to know about it for? It just makes them more curious, I think.
Yeah.
What do they need to know about that for? They should be learning about nursery rhymes or how to count, just small things like that. English, what you go to school for. What does a 5-year-old need to know about sex and then same sex to confuse them?
I completely and utterly agree. I think it's wrong on every single frigging level. I think if anything, it's putting ideas into their heads. I think it's kind of corrupting the next generation. But I think it's done within a balance, because in order for people to be their strongest, for women to be their strongest, they have to be in touch with their feminine energy. In order for males to be their strongest, they got to be in touch with their masculine energy. What's the better way to dampen those kind of people and society than to teach them from young how to confuse the two?
And that's from 5.
Imagine.
It's messed up.
Just think about it. I'm not
against
it verbally.
Yeah, I'm not against it in the slightest. Like, if anything,
imagine, your kids in school, and then all sorts of things go through your head with same sex.
Well, they also have this in, because I also know as well, they're now putting it in school books as well.
Yeah,
so
I've seen that.
At that young age, you're doing it in the school books, and then now even teaching kids, telling them that this is okay. So that's what they're teaching. Joseph, also.
Sorry.
Go ahead. You want to finish?
I just don't think it's a teacher's position to do something like that.
Yeah.
I was just
Joseph.
about to say that I would like it for it to be me. That makes sense, for it to be done via the household, if that makes sense, because there's going to be questions, and those questions a parent can best answer that and articulate that, because in a classroom, and especially 5-year-olds, not every 5-year-old is at the same level.
Yeah.
You've got some more mature ones, but they're still 5 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, what did we know when we was 5 years old? What did we know when we was 11?
Yeah.
Playing with dolls.
So,
what?
Yeah, what are we doing? I don't know. I was in nursery. I don't know.
Go on, Joseph. Go on.
for me, preferably, I would like that to come from me, explain to my child what the world is about, if that makes sense. So that's where I would come from.
So me personally, I'm not against the same sex. If that's what they want to do, and they want to be happy, all means live your life. Yeah, I'm not against that. But what I am against is what you lot are kind of saying is it's the age.
Yeah.
From a 5-year-old, remember they only start to know about their own little feelings, and as you're talking about just learning, just the normal learning how to read, and that kind of age, you know. So to try and enforce that, like we don't even teach our kids about sex education to in year 5, year 6, year
Sometimes
7.
Secondary.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to say to you, so if we are teaching kids about sex education at that later stage, why are we so enforcing for them to know about dating the same sex at the age of 5 years old?
It's way too young, and
It's
I
the
think
confusion
it's
of the
just-
energies, I feel.
Yeah, it's going to be it will be so confusing for them, and I'd literally pull my child out of school if that was happening at
Yeah.
that young age. It's just not fair. It's not fair on the parent, and it's not fair on the child to confuse a child like that. Again, like you said, they're just getting to know about their own body and their own mind. They're not developed.
Yeah.
They don't know who they are yet. You know, as in, you know.
And if I'm honest as well, like anyone that knows me personally, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, you can cut it out if you want to, but anyone that knows me personally knows that I'm actually openly bisexual. I'm not all like label and I simply don't care. Like there's some women out there that I found attractive and there's some men out there I find attractive. I don't find everyone attractive. It's the same for anyone. And I will still sit here and tell you it is wrong. They should not be doing it. There's no reason whatsoever for any child that age. I didn't even freaking figure myself out until I was in my mid-20s. Like, you know, I was just about kind of having curiosities around teenagers. But again, that was a real big mix between my feminine energy and my masculine energy because of the experiences I've been through life. And I really do think, and if I'm honest, I do think it is a bit of it's something to do with our own experiences in our life, the chemical hormones that we've got in our body that kind of make those decisions for us. When you're 5, you do not have any of those things going on yet. So there's no reason for it whatsoever unless they're just trying to plant something in their heads.
Can you even remember when you were 5? Like, what were you doing at 5
Well,
years
when I
old?
was 5, I remember I was in Grenada playing on the beach. Yeah,
You remember the beach?
Like, what were you doing?
climbing the
at 5?
trees. That's what I was doing.
Playing.
Yeah, but I remember like flashes of like nursery and stuff. But
Yeah.
mate, we were drinking like milk, little cartons, slices of orange. I shouldn't have been taught
Exactly.
about kissing another girl.
My memories of that age is drinking milk.
Yeah.
Sitting down, my legs crossed. In
Yeah, it was school. Remember? Yeah.
They'd get out that little
Same.
mat
But
and you'd
remember,
like,
you used to drink the milk out of the little bottles. Can you remember that? I don't know if you
that's
don't
what
remember
I'm
that.
saying. Yeah, like that's what you're doing when you're that age. So when
True,
people
you
are coming
know.
around trying to enforce all of this stuff, and I'm not going against it. I've got a gay uncle. I've got friends that I've got a transgender friend, for crying out loud, that I've known for many years. Like people can make whatever decisions they want to make, but do not force it on the babies.
Yeah.
Leave them alone. Just let them make their own decision. Like I don't get it. I personally don't get it, but I think there's a bigger picture behind it all. But I think that's a
Yeah.
story for another day.
100. So listen, you lot, I'm going to say thank you for coming on today's show.
Thank you.
Baby mothers, baby fathers. Yeah. Well, I'm going to say well done to you lot. Yeah.
Unite.
To you lot who's been watching today, want to hear you lot's views in the comments below. Want to hear what you lot think about the conversations that we've been having. I do say we need to do this again. You enjoyed it. Anything you lot want to say before we go?
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Share
Share.
everything.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Like, comment, and subscribe,
All right.
guys.
Listen, you lot. Listen. I said thanks again. Yeah. Also, well done to the project manager over there. All right. So yeah. Okay. So long time no see.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah. But listen. Yeah. So till next time from the baby fathers and the baby mothers. Peace. And we out.